Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military of a Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 26th of December of 2025. Today we have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Kiev. We have lots of very interesting updates. According to information we have, Zelensky is going to have a meeting with the President of the United States of America this upcoming weekend. Zelensky's meeting with Trump signals final stage of deal according to Axios. The planned meeting between Zelensky and Trump on Sunday isn't just a diplomatic gesture, but a sign that negotiations have entered a decisive phase. Trump previously stated that he would only communicate with Zelensky if there was real progress, and judging by the leaks, the moment has arrived. So this is most likely a final phase of negotiations between Ukraine and the United States of America, and most likely during this possible meeting, the President of the United States of America will ask Zelensky about possible concessions for the last time. And if Zelensky agrees on these concessions, then there are very high chances that the war, the special military operation, the conflict on the territory of Ukraine will be finished before the end of 2025. And this is exactly what lots of people currently want during these days. So at the same time, we received a report that Russia is preparing a new massive attack on the energy sector. Attacks are likely to occur approximately every 10 days. So according to this report, most likely either after the end of these negotiations between Trump and Zelensky, or during this negotiation process, Russia will attack Ukraine once again, just with one purpose: to have stronger cards during these talks. So this will allow Trump even to say and to show Zelensky that currently basically you can't do anything with this. So this is the situation. Let's wait and see what is going to be next. But another important report was published during the previous 24 hours. Different experts reported that Russia began attacking the Kiev-Koyiv railway line to disrupt logistics between Ukraine and Poland. The attacks will continue, says Ukraine military radio technology specialist. According to him, in recent days, Iran drones have hit a train, a repair crew, and railway bridge and locomotive depot. So the Ukrainians experts are trying to tell us that during the previous days, the Russians attacked this line that goes in the northern part of Ukraine between the border with Poland and the city of Kiev. So this territory was attacked by Russia's Iran drones. I would like to remind you that during the previous days, the Russians were also attacking the most southwestern part of Ukraine. We're talking about the Odessa region. And as a result of those attacks, the Russians managed to deal significant damage to the bridge in the area of the settlement of Mayaki. So these two lines are the most important lines for Ukraine if they want to continue war, if they want to continue fighting with Russians. If Russians somehow are able to establish complete control over these two roads, if Russians are able to destroy bridges along these two roads, then Ukraine will start suffering huge problems with logistics. We're not saying that Ukraine will suffer logistics forever. Obviously, these are something like temporary problems for Ukraine. They will be able to resolve these issues, but it requires time. It requires time that currently Ukraine doesn't have. So basically, with attacks and certain control over these logistics, the Russians currently are able to improve their positions significantly along the current line of combat contact. And this is exactly what the Russians are doing right now. For example, today we received lots of very important updates from the Zaporizhzhia direction, and I would like to remind you that currently this is the most important direction for the armed force of the Russian Federation, because from the current positions, the Russians are just 60 kilometers from the city of Gulyai-Polye. So only 60 kilometers and Russians will be able to enter the Zaporizhzhia agglomeration. And everybody understands that that Ukrainians would be forced to fall back from the city of Zaporizhzhia probably much earlier before the Russians are able to get these 60 kilometers, because it is very important to understand that Ukrainians currently have no possibilities to supply their contingent and population of the city of Zaporizhzhia through the river of Dnipro, because currently it's impossible. You're gonna have to use lots of bridges that would be under complete control of Russia's FPV drones, which means that you will not be able to support the city. Maybe you will be able to support the contingent contingent on the territory of the city of Zaporizhzhia with drones, but you will not be able to support the population of the city with drones. Only roads, only cargoes, only trucks, and that's it. And Russians will not allow the Ukrainians to use this. So that is why we believe that Russians need just to cross and surpass just 50% of this territory, and then we will start watching and following a complete Zaporizhzhia disaster. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. For example, during the previous 48 hours, the Russians managed to improve their positions significantly in the western Zaporizhzhia direction. The pro-Russian sources are saying that Russians improved their positions to the north of the settlement of Stepnogorsk, and Russians improved their positions to the east of the settlement. So basically, the Russians are advancing along this dense network of the fortifications, and now it has become clear that Russians are moving further in the eastern direction with the purpose to attack the city of Orechov basically from behind. If you want to know about real timings, how long this operation might take, it seems that Russians will be able to cross this territory within the next 2 or 3 months. So basically, somewhere at the beginning of spring of 2026, Russians most likely will be able to get the western outskirts of the Orechov agglomeration, and this is going to be basically the beginning of the battle for the city itself. So this is the situation in this direction. At the same time, Russians continue offensive operation on the eastern the Zaporizhzhia direction. During the previous 12 hours, we received lots of updates from the territory of the city of Guliai-Polye. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the situation by the end of the 22nd of December. This is the 23rd of December. This is the 24th of December. This is the 25th, and this is the end of the 26th of December. So currently, according to this configuration of the front line, Ukrainians control just the central and the western part of the city. We are talking about the current configuration. We're not talking about the real situation on the ground. Because when talking about the real situation on the ground, right before we started making this video, several pro-Russian sources stated that the city of Guliai-Polye has fallen. So we haven't adjusted the map. Of course, we are waiting for real proofs. We're waiting for some confirmations or videos with flag. But for the first time since the beginning of the battle for the city of Guliai-Polye, the pro-Russian, very reliable sources stated that the city has fallen. So we are waiting for additional updates. We are waiting for additional reports, and most likely tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or during talks between Trump and Zelensky, we will adjust the map. So as of now, as of the 26th of December, we have adjusted just the central part. So these are the changes between the dates, and we adjusted the map based on several videos that were published from this area. So this is the first video, and I believe that you've already familiar with the report that was published by Russians. The Russians are saying that as a result of offensive operation, they managed to capture the headquarters of 102nd Territorial Defense Brigade, which was located right exactly inside of this building. So this territory was captured, and based on this video this morning, we colored the eastern part of the settlement of the central part of the city. But later we got another video, and here we can see how Russians raised the flag in the most central part of the city of Guliai-Polye. And based on this video, we have adjusted the central part. So Russians feel free, obviously, in this area without any risk of being attacked from Ukrainian side, which means that the central part of the city of Guliai-Polye is already under complete control of the armed force of the Russian Federation. As for the Ukrainians, currently they control basically just the most western part of the settlement, but most likely in coming days they would be forced to fall back from this area further in the western direction towards the settlement by the name of Zaporizhzhia. So which means that the city of Guliai-Polye is about to be taken by Russians, and most likely once again in coming days this information would be confirmed by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation and most likely by the group of forces seized. Furthermore, we have a very important update from the settlement of Kosivtsevsa, which is located on the Ukrainian side of the river Gaichul. If you remember, during the previous video, we discussed that most likely the Russians began offensive operation on the settlement of Ternovate, and we came to this conclusion based on this video that was published by pro-Russian sources. In this video, we can see how Russians were bombing and attacking the settlement of Ternovate with aviation. So based on this video, we came to the conclusion that the Russians have just started. But today, pro-Russian sources published this video, and according to this video, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly around the settlement of Ternovata. Basically, the Russians managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Kosovtseva. So based on this video, based on the report of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, based on the reports that were published by different sources, we adjusted the map in this area. So the settlement of Kosovtseva was taken by Russians, and most likely the battle for the settlement of Ternovata isn't going. There are very heavy clashes right now, but we believe that in coming days, in a day or in 2 days, Russians will publish a report about complete control over the territory as well. And if it happens, then I don't see any barriers, any problems, let's say that Russians might face during their offensive or possible offensive operation in the direction of the city of Zaporizhzhia, which is obviously much probably worse for Ukrainians in comparison with the situation in the area of the city of Pokrovsk, Kramatorsk, Slaviansk, and so on. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the area of the cities of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. During the previous 24 hours, as you can see, the map was adjusted, but just in the southern part of the settlement of Rodinskaya. We have already discussed this video, and here we can see how 3 Ukrainian soldiers were moving in the southern part of the settlement trying to secure the territory, but as you can see, the Ukrainians were very they didn't want to risk much. They were moving very careful. They entered this building, and when Russians discovered that 3 Ukrainian soldiers entered this building, they attacked this building. The Russians attacked this building with bomb, and the building basically was almost completely destroyed. So this video shows that Ukrainians continue their counter-offensive operation just with one purpose: to unblock the contingent of the armed forces of Ukraine on the territory of the settlement of Mirnograd, because as you can see, we still haven't adjusted the map in this area. We still show up to 20% of the settlement as a gray zone, and you can see this picture almost on maps of every single mapper that you may find in the internet. So Ukrainians still have positions there, and it seems that Ukrainians are trying to unblock them. So maybe they will try to do this, and maybe they will try to intensify their offensive operation in coming days and hours, because obviously Ukrainians will try to unblock the city of Mirnograd through the settlements of Rodinskaya and Krasny Liman within the next days, either before the 2026 comes, before the new year, or Ukrainians will try to do this before the Orthodox Christmas that is going to happen at the beginning of January of 2025. Now let's move further. As you can see, as for the Konstantinovka direction, during the previous 24 hours, lots of updates, lots of videos were recorded to the west of the settlement of Konstantinovka. The Russians established certain control over roads, over positions of the armed forces of Ukraine, and the Russians are trying to break through these positions with the purpose to attack the settlement of Drushkovka from behind. So it seems that Russians, after a short regrouping, are going to advance further in the northern direction to encircle the city of Konstantinovka completely and to attack Ukrainian positions from behind. So most likely in coming days, we might see lots of offensive operations from the Russians in this direction. As for the city of Siversk and the Siversk direction or Slaviansk direction, during the previous 24 hours, we haven't received anything special. Just I would like to remind you that yesterday Russians, as a result of offensive operation, established complete control over the settlement of Svято-Pokrovskaya. We made these changes. As of the 26th of December, nothing happened. At the same time, I would like to point to attention that we stopped receiving any updates from the city of Liman. And this is a very weird situation, because I suppose that something is happening here, but for some reason, neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians are telling us about the current situation on the ground. So, according to the latest report that was published by the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, the Russians managed to improve their positions through the 50% of the settlement. But according to different mappers, you might see almost the same picture everywhere. So which means that the situation is a very strange situation there. As for the Kupiansk direction, the pro-Ukrainian sources reported that they have almost improved their positions on the western side of the river Oskol. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the situation by the end of the 25th and 24th of December of 2025, and this is the end of the 26th. As you can see, we have almost colored the northwestern part of the settlement, and we made these changes based on the video published by pro-Russian sources. In this video, we can see how Russians were attacking a temporary deployment point of the armored forces of Ukraine in the northwestern part with missile or with aviation bomb. So Russians are trying to tell us with this video that Ukrainians managed to improve their positions, that Russians were forced to fall back, and now the Russians are bombing and attacking this territory with all weapons and calibers they have. You know that today I read a very interesting analysis about the situation, and the sources are saying that the city of Kupiansk is not so important for Russians. Yes, this is a very important city, a very important logistical hub, and many other different things we can say about the city of Kupiansk, but pro-Russian sources are saying that currently we can see something like a trap. According to information we have, Ukrainians redeployed in this direction up to 4,000 of Ukrainian soldiers just with one purpose: to recapture the western part of the city of Kupiansk. And the Russians are saying that they are trying to force the commander-in-chief of the armored forces of Ukraine and to stay and to keep these forces in this direction. So the Russians, according to these experts, are retreating from the city of Kupiansk, allowing the Ukrainians to enter the city and to bring and to introduce up to 4 or even more forces, soldiers in these 4,000 or even more thousands of soldiers in this direction. And of course, if Syrsky does it, then most likely one of the directions will start suffering huge problems with manpower. And Russians may use this situation for developing of their offensive. Furthermore, we are talking about, of course, the Zaporizhzhia or the Donetsk direction. So once again, according to several pro-Russian sources, the situation that we can see right now in the area of the city of Kupiansk is just a trap. Anyway, let's wait and see what is going to be next, but this might be the reality. And that's it for today. The Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.